Annyeonghaseyo. Merhaba. I want to learn to speak Korean and Turkish in 3 months, and I'm going to document this process. My current level is negligible. I know a few words. And my target level is being able to engage in basic conversation. So let's get started. Why I want to learn Korean? I saw K-dramas, and if I watch something a lot, I usually feel the need to copy it. I wanted to learn it for 7 months already, but haven't made almost any progress. So now I want to prove to myself that I can do it. I thought it could be something that I do in my free time, like progress thing that's not related to university. What I have tried and why it didn't work out. I learned Hangul and then inquired about words I encountered and how are they made. I left it after the first 2 days because I wasn't sure how to continue. Sign up for class Korean 2 at my university and learn Korean 1 before the semester starts. I repeated the previous thing. I got some materials and started learning vocabulary and left it after a few days. Keep going to the class Korean 2 and feel so awkward, it will push me to learn. I went there 2 times, didn't feel awkward, and in the second class learned that the attendance is not mandatory and the final is a take-home exam. I basically repeated the previous thing, created a few flashcards, and that was it. Then I always needed to do something for some other of my subjects, just when the class was being held, and then I started being afraid of going here because I will be even more behind. Just immerse myself in it when I'm free during holidays. It's been a week and I haven't done almost anything. I think it's because I lack any structure. To be honest, and a bit funny, I think that my biggest Korean progress so far is that I started using sunscreen. Ha ha ha. Why I want to learn Turkish? I'm going to study in Ankara in the upcoming fall semester. That's it. Yeah, I haven't watched any Turkish series yet. What I have tried so far. My parents taught me a few words they could remember during a car ride a few days ago. Well, I haven't really started. Why I wasn't successful so far? I think it's because I didn't have any specific plan. I felt like creating such plan would make this potential hobby feel like another chore, and then because I lacked any short-term goals, I didn't feel any urgency of doing something in regards to learning the languages. Like, why should I do it today if I can do it tomorrow, you know? So, from now on, I'm going to make time commitments, set short-term goals, and reflect on my progress almost daily. I'm going to spend 1 hour a day learning each language for 6 days a week. The first short-term goal is to learn how to introduce myself in 4 days. I have written some introduction and here are the words I need to learn to use. In this hyperlapse, I am learning about Turkish greetings, how to say nice to meet you and how to say one's name and age. I'm trying to get to know what it really means. For example, memnun oldum, which translates to nice to meet you, consists of memnun, which might mean something like pleasure, and oldum, which is past tense in the first person for to be. So it doesn't contain anything like meet or you, but it could be also added. The next day, I continued learning for the introduction. I looked up more words and I needed to form sentences, for which I needed to know how to conjugate the verbs. I then started encountering the different forms of verbs depending on time, the subject, level of politeness, vowel harmony, or whether it ends with a vowel or consonant. I felt really strongly against learning the grammar in a table-like way, but also when I learned just the form I needed, I felt like it's totally disconnected and I'm just memorizing instead of understanding why it's like that, and it wasn't sticking in my head. I wasn't sure which path to take, so maybe you already see where this is going. Or now, when I'm saying this, you can probably guess. And here it was going kind of downhill. I felt really sleepy, or maybe it was the sunscreen in my eyes. I then tried to generate some flashcards, but wasn't really learning anything. On a more positive note, I watched K-drama in that evening, and I was actually able to understand a bit more than before. Still almost nothing, but yeah. So, I have several thoughts about this language learning project. Firstly, I don't even know what to do in these 1 hour sessions. As I said previously, I don't know whether I should learn grammar or like the words and how to say things, or like explore the language, or do the Anki cards, or try to speak, or like some combination. And this way it feels very unstructured, but I don't want to give it a structure because I'm not sure what would be right. Also, the 2 hours today, one for each language, feels quite daunting. So I may keep postponing it, and then there's not enough time. So for 2 hours, and but since I don't know what to do in these, it's kind of secondary. Thirdly, I used flashcards, and while I learned some words, and then when I saw the flashcard, I could recall the word. I immediately felt that I wouldn't be able to use it normally, and that in the context of some real situation, I wouldn't think of that. Then the fourth point is that I tried searching up some daily things I use. And what's interesting is that there are actually more words that are similar. And actually, I watched some interviews with people that live in Korea but came there as adults and are fluent in Korean. And what was surprising is that some of the people that had the best accent and like were most fluent were Turkish people, and some people even said that for Turkish native speakers, it's easier to get the Korean pronunciation right. That doesn't really help me, but it's interesting. Another point is, and I already mentioned it, is that after the second day, I was able to understand some words in the K drama. And then I didn't watch any for like 5 days, I think. And I already feel really disconnected. So I feel like my pronunciation goes down even more, or like my sense for how the language should sound. And for Turkish, I didn't even start watching some longer content in the language. So that's something I want to change. When I try to learn the pronunciation, I usually listen from Google Translate and try to repeat it and a few more times. But I noticed, especially for Korean, that when just hours or days pass, I kind of stop being able to reproduce that sound. or even in minutes. I was thinking that one way how to improve my pronunciation, and notice that some people do it, is to listen to some part of, let's say, series or something, and try to repeat it exactly, and maybe record myself and do that again and again till I'm kind of okay with it. And like, of course, analyze why it's like that and compare it with the written form and so on. Another idea I encountered is writing diary in the language I'm learning. So I will try that, and in the beginning I will probably use translator a lot, but I think that this is a nice way how to incorporate using the language into my daily routine. Also, there are many words that are very similar in English and in Korean and Turkish, so I feel like that has a lot of potential. Okay, and my last point is that I don't want to learn Korean as a baby or like as a child with the LAG method, where you just get all the input and no output at first and don't learn any grammar on anything. Because firstly, I feel like it could be done more efficiently because adult's brain is different from the child's one, and that has potential. And secondly, it kind of feels like avoiding the difficulty of trying to produce the speech and feels pretty passive, which usually isn't associated with some good and efficient learning. But at the same time, I can hear myself and hear that the pronunciation is bad. And I know that's used as one argument that if you try to speak from the very beginning, you may fix some bad patterns. But yeah, still, I don't really want to use this method. But of course, I don't want to use the classical school method either, with memorizing the tables and things like that. That's exactly how I pretty much didn't learn to speak English for many years. Alright, and now it's time to create a new plan. So, firstly, I want to diversify the things I'm doing and reflect every 2 days on how I perceive it's affecting my cognition and what's happening in my head with the language. Obviously, it's possible that I will misinterpret it somehow, but I think it's still better to have some short-term calibration and not just focus on the longer term outcomes. I have decided to reduce the 60 minutes per language to 30 minutes per language per day and do it in the morning. But first I need to start waking up so I have enough time. I think that if it's just 1 hour, I can definitely dedicate it at the start of the day. And in these blocks, I will learn grammar and then do the other things kind of during the day or maybe after that. Then I will be writing in diary, which I'm not sure yet how it will go, so I may then set some times or performance goals. And then I will try to name daily things I'm encountering and use that in sentences, which I'm also not sure how it will go, so I will adjust that after the reflection every 2 days. Regarding Anki, I will still use it, but I will change the words for short sentences, which I previously thought is a really bad idea. Like, why should I memorize a sentence? But this way it will be more like practicing the word in sentence, like saying that alongside with other words. And I probably won't stick that with that for long. It will be just to gain the vocabulary and then be using it some more complicated sentences outside of the NK. And then there are K-dramas and whatever Turkish content I can find and will be interesting to me. I intend to have some dedicated time for just immersing myself in it, and then some shorter time where I will focus on some small part and try to replicate the pronunciation exactly. Okay, so that's my plan. I'm going to do it for a few days, document it, and post an update. Let me know in the comments if you are also starting to learn Korean and Turkish or if you already speak it. And otherwise, have a great day. Bye!